Took a ride on the ranch the other day to take a look at the wreck.
I haven't.
From the road, it was different. But then I was down at Jeffrey I's house on the way at Gun Garden and saw the water.
No, someone had to represent anybody.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now that it's after 6 p.m. on Monday, February 12th, 2018, I'll call to order the Board of Selectmen's meeting. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just a quick announcement. The town hall will be closed on Monday, February 19th, 2018. And at this time, I'd like to invite the chief and Patrolman Aaron DeSantis to come forward, along with the town clerk, Bob Craver, for the swearing-in ceremony.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as a member of the Webster Police Department, according to the best abilities and understandings agreeable to the town bylaws and the laws that govern us, so help you God? I do. Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
One chance left still. So, Mr. Chairman and Honorable Board, this is Aaron DeSantis. He comes to us from the town of Ware. He's been a police officer in the town of Ware for since 2012, I believe. He is a 6-year veteran of the U.S. Army, did 2 deployments in Iraq. After that, he joined the U.S. Army National Guard. In the town of Ware, he was full-time. He also had several other responsibilities as well. He was trained as a field training officer. He served as their school resource officer. He was a firearms instructor there as well. And I'm missing one more thing. A sexual assault investigator. So when Aaron came to us, he was obviously well-prepared and well-trained when he did. He's been with us for several months now. We just haven't had the chance to get here. But he's already made an impact on the department and on the town as well. So we're glad to have him.
Well, welcome to Webster.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
The next hour is yours.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to come out here and work. It's a great department. I really enjoying it a lot more. Really enjoy all the guys. They've been very welcoming. I'm just really happy to be here and just want to contribute and do what I can to help out the community.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we won't make him sit through the next 2 hours.
Yeah, you and your family are welcome to leave. The rest of the meeting might be really exciting, but yeah, that's. But thank you for coming. Yeah.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing for the liquor license discipline for the Liberty Club.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Board?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. At this time, I'd ask that the representatives of the Webster Police Department, along with Attorney Greg Corbo, come forward.
Yeah, Andrew, we'll have Greg kind of give us an introduction and tell us kind of the format of how we envision the public hearing going.
Absolutely.
Can you bring your chair up? Is that okay? Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Greg Corbo from Town Council's office at KP Law, and I'll be assisting you this evening in presenting this liquor license disciplinary hearing with respect to the Liberty Club. Just to sort of talk a little bit about the procedure for how things will go this evening, we'll generally proceed in 3 phases. During the first phase, you'll hear evidence and testimony from representatives of the Webster Police Department concerning an incident that happened at the Liberty Club. During the second phase, you'll have an opportunity to hear from representatives of the Liberty Club as to any defense to the charges that they may have. And during the third phase, you will deliberate and vote on a decision. Just sort of by way of background, this is in the nature of an adjudicatory proceeding, which means that you'll be finding facts and making certain rulings. However, this proceeding does not rise to the level of formality of a court proceeding. So we're going to ask that witnesses be sworn in, but there's not going to be a formal, line of questioning and objections, things like that. We would, however, ask that anybody who does intend to testify, to direct their comments through the chair, that there not be any cross conversations going on, and that people try to, be tactful in their testimony that they give. So, are there any questions from members of the board? And do we have any members of representatives of the Liberty Club here? Yes. Okay. Would you please introduce yourself for the record?
My name is Andre Zero.
Thank you. Mr. Zur, do you have any questions as to the procedure for the proceeding here tonight? Thank you. Mr. Chair, for the record, the Liberty Club has been provided with notice of this proceeding, is that correct? Right. And based on that notice, it states that on Monday, January 8th, 2018, at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Webster Town Hall, 350 Main Street, Webster, Massachusetts, the Webster Board of Selectmen, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 138, Sections 23 and 64, will hold a public hearing to determine whether you violated the terms of your alcoholic beverages license for the Liberty Club, Inc. The specific charges are as follows. 1, violation of the terms of the license in MGL Chapter 138, Section 12, establishment open after hours. 2, violation of 204 CMR 2.05, subsection 2, permitting a disorder, disturbance, or illegality to take place on the licensed premises. 3, violation of MGL Chapter 138, Section 69, service of alcohol to an intoxicated person. And 4, violation of MGL Chapter 138, Section 63A, hindering an investigation. The facts underlying these allegations arise from an incident occurring on or about November 17, 2017, as described in detail in the Webster Police Incident Report attached here too. Members of the board, have you had an opportunity to review the report referenced in the notice?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. You are invited to attend the hearing and be represented by counsel at your own expense if you wish. At that time, you may produce any documentation and/or witnesses which show that you did not commit the violations described herein. You are also invited to make an appointment to examine the Board of Selectmen's file in this matter during regular business hours. The allegations, if proven, may result in disciplinary action, including warning, suspension, revocation, or modification of the above referenced license. Okay. For the record, that is the notice of this proceeding. We will now, unless there are any questions, we'll proceed to phase 1. And I would ask that Deputy Chief Shaw, please, I guess both Deputy Chief Shaw and Sergeant Perry, would you please stand and be sworn in?
Andrew, you want to swear him in?
Absolutely. All right, you're already raising your right hand. Do you swear that the following testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All yours.
Good evening. So the following is a summary of the events of November 17th at about 1:35 in the morning. We received a call for an assault and battery. Officers responded to 103 North Main Street, also known as the Liberty Club. Sergeant Perry, who was seated to my right, was one of the officers that responded and the supervisor of the shift that evening. Officers arrived to find a male, obviously under the influence of liquor. A second male was located a short distance away, stumbling down the road with an obvious injury to his head. Officers conducted a brief investigation and spoke to the bartender, Angela St. Laurent, in furtherance of that investigation. And upon speaking with her, it was obvious that she too was under the influence due to slurred speech and a moderate smell of alcohol coming from her person. Officers believe she may have been under the influence of some type of stimulant, given her erratic behavior based on their training and experience. At first, Ms. St. Laurent was not truthful with officers about the fact that the fight had taken place inside the bar, which resulted in one of the males sustaining the laceration to the head that I referred to earlier. But she did ultimately admit to it. When asked why she was intoxicated at this late hour, she had no response, but she was on the phone trying to get a hold of the owner of the bar, which was unsuccessful. She could also not explain why she had had patrons in the bar past the 1 a.m. closing time. Sergeant Perry was concerned about her driving home, and she was evasive about how she got to work, and she finally admitted to taking her boyfriend's car to work that evening. One of the individuals was given a portable breath test, and he recorded a .312. .08 is the legal limit in Massachusetts to drive a motor vehicle. So almost 4 times the legal limit to drive a motor vehicle. He was subsequently transported to Hubbard Hospital. We have a standing rule at the station. Anybody that registers a .3 or above on the breathalyzer test goes to the hospital because it's not safe for them to be in a lockup for risk of alcohol poisoning and the medical conditions that come with that. The other male was recorded was a .17, and he was placed under protective custody and brought to the station. Ms. St. Laurent was subsequently brought to the station where she refused a portable breathalyzer test. However, she did admit to Sergeant Perry that she had served both males alcohol after the 1 a.m. closing time. Violations that obviously that town councils referred to are stated, obviously, the over-serving of the patrons after the closing, serving after closing time and being under the influence as a bartender, among the other ones that he's listed. If there's any specific questions regarding the specific events of the night, Sergeant Perry is here to answer those questions.
Go right
Mr. Chair,
ahead.
through you, do you mind if I ask a
Oh,
couple
go
questions?
right ahead.
The one gentleman had a blood alcohol level of .312. What time was that?
It was after 1:30, so it probably between 1:35 and I would say 0200 in that time frame.
And so, in your experience, if a person of that size and weight had a .312 at 1:30, quarter to 2, would they have been showing signs of obvious intoxication half an hour, 45 minutes earlier?
They may have. They may have. Usually what happens is, and you can jump in if I'm incorrect in this, people sometimes are climbing up. So you don't know, depending on the alcohol and their level, their level could be continuing to go up. So he might have been at 3.312 at the time he took the test, but he could be continuing to rise. We don't know, depending on how much alcohol that he had consumed. He was transported to the hospital, so I don't know what his levels were up there. We're not privy to that information.
And can you describe in a little bit more detail your interactions with the bartender and her attempts to get in touch with someone who could be responsible for locking up the bar at that point?
I would defer to Sergeant Perry on that.
In regards to her behavior, it was extremely erratic. She couldn't answer my simple questions. It was hard for her to focus on the very easy questions that I was asking her. She continued to talk on the phone while I was speaking with her. And overall, she was very hypervigilant. And from my training experience, it just appeared that she had something more on board than alcohol. As I referred to in my report, some sort of stimulant. But she was extremely erratic in her behavior, her speech, and her thought pattern.
And in the time that you were there, was she ever able to contact somebody who could come and lock up and be responsible for the bar?
Not that I'm aware of. No, sir.
And-
I'm sorry, I'd like to add just, she was going to, she'd leave the establishment open. And that was a great concern of mine as well, about securing the doors. And I had mentioned to her, obviously that can't happen. So that was one of the behavioral characteristics that, she just wasn't thinking clearly.
And any questions from members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, a couple questions. Was the bartender tip certified? Do we know?
I don't have that information. I would refer to the Liberty Club for that.
Okay, that's just a question, see whether or not this person was trained. Did the bartender admit to drinking?
Did she admit to drinking?
Yes.
I don't recall if she admitted to drinking.
Okay.
But as I, stated in my report, she did have a smell of alcohol about her, coming from her breath as well as her person.
And she obviously didn't submit to a blood alcohol test.
That's correct.
The timing of the patrons being in the bar, do we have any timeline on the patrons? I mean, there's an admission that patrons were served, that the bartender admitted that.
We got the call at 1:35. Closing time is at 1, as you know. I don't know that.
I know that she admitted it as well, that she had served them after hours and inside the bar. And so it would be after 1 a.m. And I believe the altercation we got the call at 01:35. So she did serve them admittedly after the closing time.
And at least by the blood alcohol content levels, they were already intoxicated.
Correct.
And the last question for Deputy Chief Shaw, is it possible the person was coming down? You said the person could have been going up the scale.
It is.
So they could have been higher than
It is possible. It is
the
possible.
.312. I mean, that's, dangerous.
Sure.
Clearly, you could die. I mean, I think-
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And for the record, through you, Mr. Chair, in paragraph 6 of Sergeant Perry's report, he states that Ms. St. Laurent did admit to having Mr. Layton and Mr. Twasnecki in the bar after hours and did admit to serving them alcohol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If I may. I was just, I was very concerned if you have a .312, and according to what I'm reading here, one of the gentlemen was what, he's 5'7", 150 pounds, and .312?
Yeah.
Okay. The other gentleman is much larger, but still, he was partially off the Richter scale too.
Correct. And that's twice.
It's unbelievable. Thank you. Thank you,
I don't have any
Mr. Chairman.
questions.
Other questions?
Any other questions from board members? All right. And we'll invite up a representative from the Liberty Bureau.
So we'll excuse the officers for now, although I'd like to ask Deputy Chief Shaw to come back before we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing, to ask whether or not he has any recommendation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, Mr. Chair, we'd ask that a representative of the Liberty Club address the board if they wish.
Come on up. I'll ask you to remain standing. If you raise your right hand.
No, there's
you
good.
can Here, we'll just swear you in. If you want to repeat after me, the following testimony that I am about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Is that sufficient, Attorney Corbo?
You may have a seat, and you may address the board as to the charges that are pending with respect to the Liberty Club.
The first thing I have to say that I'm as disappointed as anyone here that it even happened. I apologize for all of that, and I received, the first phone call I received from Angela was after 1 o'clock. I don't recall exactly what time it was, and she was panicking that the guys are fighting outside, and one is, saying that he was going to call the police, and she never asked me to come in. She was, I was under the impression that she was in control to lock up the place, and then so I didn't feel like I had to come in. And then after discussing it with her after the fact that the following day, she told me it's so disappointing to read this police report that I'm just disgusted myself. But after talking to her, she never admitted to me that she served the alcohol after 1 o'clock. And then she said that all the fighting was outside, and that's why, when one guy was saying he was going to call the police, that's why she didn't know what to do really. So she's kept it open. And as far as the alcohol being consumed and stuff, at that location, in that bar, I see it every day because I go there, pretty much every day. I go there during the hours, and I go there the following morning before we open to kind of organize the place before we open and stuff. And then there's every day that I pick up the cigarette butts, and then there was plastic nibs and pines all around the property, especially the dumpster and so on. So people like to save the money, I guess. They come in and they drink before, they drink during, and then they drink after, before they get to go home, I guess, because I see so many empty containers around the place. So I really don't know what to say. Really. I'm so disappointed. And we did. The bartender, the policy at the place is there's no drinking or doing any kinds of stimulants on the job. I wasn't there that day, so obviously she was under something. And I mean, she was suspended, I suspended her, we went over the rules again, I changed the hours to close at 1 o'clock, I mean, at midnight now, I mean, I really don't wanna even deal with a 1 o'clock crowd there. And I banned those two individuals from coming in, I mean, from what I know, they can't go to a couple other places in Webster. I mean, I'm new to this business and to the town, and I'm trying to learn who the people that are coming in are, and I mean, there was a couple issues with these two individuals in the past, like, that I could just say that they are a little bit problematic people, I guess, you know, and, so, but obviously it was an ugly, bad day for me and everybody involved, so I really apologize, and I really don't know what to say.
Are there any questions from board
Well,
members?
if I may follow up, Vice Chair Becker had mentioned on your bartenders, and I'm sure that you have more than one.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Are
I'm
they,
sorry,
are
the
they,
other
are
thing I
they
was gonna say-
certified, tip certified?
She is, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't bring her the copy of it. I do have it, though. I can bring it tomorrow, drop it off. I'm sorry about that. And I did come into, because, I mean, she left, her keys to the place were locked in the bar, so I did have to come in after the fact to let her come in, and because her purse was in the bar with her keys, and so I came back to when she was released from the station to the bar, and which was, I don't know, about 3 o'clock or so.
I think,
That
if I
one?
may, Mr. Chairman, I think what really bothers me is she jeopardized your livelihood,
Right.
and your license and procedures and so forth and so on, in Mass General Law and several chapters. But knowingly, after hours, serve, and herself being under something, and you just suspended her?
She's still there, yeah. I just suspended her, but she still works there.
That's rather lenient, don't you think?
I think it
You
is.
got a lot of
right.
money invested
I
in
think
buying
you're
that,
right,
and being new to the business.
yeah. I mean, she handles herself pretty good, I mean, from what I know. I mean, she's a good bartender, and that, I don't know what happened that day. Maybe I shouldn't trust her anymore and should fire her, I'm not sure, but she's still there as of now, yeah.
Again, it's your livelihood, it's your license. But you're the owner of it. Okay, sorry.
Through the chair,
Go right ahead.
how long did you suspend her for?
2 weeks.
And also through the chair, did she admit to you that she was drinking while she was on the job?
She did. She did admit that, but she didn't admit that she served it to anyone else.
She admitted that she was drinking while she was on the job to you, and you only suspended her for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from board
Yeah,
members?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do you happen to have a sign in the establishment? You know, it would be illegal to bring in alcohol, I would believe, and/or consume alcohol that's been brought in, or have it drunk on the premises. Is there a sign that says that? Because
No.
you say that you see evidence of drinking on your
I
property.
do. Well, I mean, it's a corner property, so really, I mean, people could be on the, I mean, I don't have any, like, parking lot or anything to speak of there, so, I mean, people could be walking out, being on the street and just tossing the things towards the dumpster, but drinking on the street, but, I mean, it's a good idea, I should have signs, yeah. I don't know how effective they would be, I mean, it's a pretty rough crowd in that area. That I could see.
Again, just
Go right ahead.
Go ahead.
through the chair, she also did admit to the police that she served in the
I
premises
hear that,
after.
I see it.
And I know she didn't admit that to you, but,
Right.
you know, that, I think I would echo my fellow selectmen in saying we're fortunate there was not a tragedy here, because someone could have died, either from alcohol poisoning or wandering into the street and being hit by a car, or someone driving a car and killing an innocent person. So, it's your employee, obviously, and you have whatever discipline you have to mete out to that employee. It is concerning that it was only 2 weeks suspension. But, you know, these are very serious issues from what I've seen. And I think you admit to the fact that it's a dark day for your establishment.
Yes.
If,
Any other questions?
yes, I was just concerned if she was serving after hours, and like I say, .312 and a .17, wouldn't she, being a trained person, allegedly, that she would not serve the person saying that you've been overserved, period? And that would have been probably prior to 1 o'clock, unless she has also
Well,
some
so I
other
can say,
situation.
I mean, I don't know, I mean, how they looked exactly, but I mean, I don't know how, if they drank anything that night after, like I said, the nips or whatever. So, I mean, almost 4 times the limit, I think that was, but it should be pretty recognizable to anyone that the person is intoxicated enough not to be served.
Served at all. That's my point.
So I'm just assuming that they probably were not that intoxicated inside the bar prior to, to closing time. But I'm not an expert by any means, so
So,
Mr. Corbo?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
no, that's
Do you have questions?
okay. I do.
Okay, I'll wait for you.
Through the chair, how long have you owned the Liberty Club?
I bought the place, we had the closing on November 3rd of 2016, and then, but it's been open since September 1st of last year. Because it took me a year to really, to clean up the place all around, pretty much outside, the bar and the basement, and garage and the apartments. I mean, it was a mess, basically, so.
And also through the chair, how long has this bartender been a bartender at the Liberty Club?
From the beginning, and from what she's the only one that I kept from the bartenders that worked there before I bought it. I mean, she had the good recommendations from Mrs. Mays and some patrons, and they liked her and stuff. That's the reason, because I didn't know her really so that well. I mean, I've met her because I've been to the bars ever since I had some interest in buying it. I went to check out the place and stuff, so I met her, but I never knew her personally before that, so. But the previous owner, Mrs. Janice Mays, kind of gave her good recommendations, and so
Do you know how long she was a bartender prior to that?
from what she says, it was about 13 years. And then her mom worked there before that, so I figured there was a family history there at the place, so I wanted to keep some of that, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Attorney Corbo?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you, thank you. Just a couple of questions. So, the incident that occurred here, it sounds like you had a situation where you had one employee who was in charge that evening. Okay? She became intoxicated. She claimed at the time that she was trying to reach the owner, who I presume is you,
Right.
but no owner was ever reached.
No, she spoke with me on the phone.
Okay, and what happened when you were speaking with her on the phone?
She said that the police was there, the guys are fighting outside, and then she's waiting for the police to arrive. And then she didn't give me an impression that I had to come in, so I just figured the police will come in, whoever's gonna get arrested, then she will lock the place, explain herself, and then that would be that. I mean, I was sleeping when she called me, but I was available. And then she called me again after she got out of the police station and asked if I could come in and open the bar so she could get her purse and the keys. And so, I mean, if she would have asked me to come in, I would definitely would came in, because I was available, and I'm only not even 10 minutes away from the bar.
So she wasn't on the phone with you while the police were there?
She was.
Well, I thought
She
you just
was.
said that she called you before to say the police were coming.
Well, she called me a couple times, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't think it was that
Well, what did
ugly,
she,
as I say.
what did she say to you while the police were there?
She was crying most of the time, pretty much. I mean, she was pretty, she wasn't really saying anything like, I mean, she was just distressed, basically, because she was going on vacation that day. In the morning, they were leaving for South Carolina or something, like 4 o'clock in the morning. So she was basically a mess. She was crying, like trying to have me help her somehow, But
And you didn't think that was a situation that warranted you coming down to the establishment to check on it and see what was going on?
I should have came back before, when the police was there, you're right.
Now, do you have a manager, or are you the
No,
manager?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay. And so how often is it that there's only one employee who's in charge of the establishment?
Pretty much, there's one person in charge pretty much most of the time, yeah. One person at a time works, and then I go in and out, pretty much, yeah.
So, based on what you've heard here tonight, and obviously what you've seen in this report before, what safeguards have you put in place to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again in the future?
Well, like I said, I spoke with her about the rules and regulations and procedures, and so obviously, I mean, it was pretty much her losing the judgment that day. I don't have any issues like that with anyone else, so I'm going to reconsider basically terminating that employee from there. And then I changed the hours to midnight, so there would be, because like I said, I don't want to deal with that ever again. I mean, it's uncalled for. So we do close it at midnight.
And who's responsible for closing now?
The person that works the shift.
How many people do you have on, how many different people do you have on
Three.
closing shifts? Three?
Three people, yes.
And what are the
Yeah,
experience of those people?
They're great, there's no issues.
Yeah, but what's their experience level?
I mean, they are certified, they're tip certified, both of the other people, but they're fairly new
Okay, so
to the
like,
business.
well,
So
I'll just say,
but they were, they're more of a, from what I know, they have serving experience, as being service at the restaurants, pretty much, but not like a bartender before they got into my bar.
okay, so the first person who you have closing by themselves, how old is that person?
What do you mean, first person?
Well, so you said there were three people, so
Right,
let's
there's
just,
Angela's,
Angela's one of them,
One
one
of
of the
them,
three, okay. Who's the other person, the second one?
there was, John.
John, okay.
He's 27, and there's Brittany, she's 25.
Okay, so John, how much bartending experience does John have?
John and Brittany, they come from the restaurant business.
Okay, so
So
they
they-
don't
they-
have bartending experience?
No, they've been working in serving, service, and they still do, the
Okay.
restaurants, but not running the bar now.
And how long have they been working for you?
A few months,
And how old is Brittany?
25.
And so when closing time comes, either Ms. St. Laurent, John, or Brittany would be solely responsible for getting everyone out and closing up the bar on time?
Yes.
Are there ever times where you have more than one person on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm there quite often myself, yes.
How often do you close?
Maybe a couple of times a week that I'm there at the closing time.
And these people, they all have a way of getting in touch with you
Oh, yes.
if there's an incident, and what if you're not available?
There hasn't been such a, I mean, I'm always available, pretty much. Like I said, I live in Dudley, which is 8 to 10 minutes away, and there haven't been an issue like that someone couldn't reach me.
I have no further questions, members of the board. Anything else?
Through the chair, just a follow-up question. Who called the police? Who called the police?
One of the patrons that
So
were
it was a
fighting.
patron,
Yeah.
it wasn't a bartender,
Yeah, that's correct. It was one of the gentlemen that was involved in
the altercation?
the altercation.
And you had said that you hired these two other green bartenders over the last couple of months. Was, back when this incident occurred, was she the only one that had experience as a bartender?
Well, the other people work there different days, but that day she was the only one there.
Right, no, what I'm saying is that you had just said that the two bartenders that you have there now, the younger ones, the gentleman and the young lady at 25 and 27,
Yeah.
they were just hired recently over the last few months.
Well, yeah, this bar has been open since a few months, really, yeah, since September 1st of last year.
Right, but
5
this
months.
incident happened in November of last year, right? So was she the only,
No, I was working days
so it was just you,
and her.
It was
pretty
her.
much, yeah.
and how many days a week is the bar open?
6 days.
Okay, so
Tuesday to
she
Sunday.
was working 6 nights and you were working
No,
6
no.
days?
Well, no, it's a, we open at 3 o'clock,
Mhm.
so it's a one person shift pretty much.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Through the chair, just one more question. Just to verify, now, if I may, indirectly to Sergeant Perry, that caller was the gentleman, the .312, in excessive to 911?
No, the caller was the 117 that
Oh, okay,
we found on the porch
okay.
of the establishment.
He's a bigger guy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? No.
Sir, do you have any other, anything else you would like to say to the board, or do you have any other witnesses who you would like to have address the board?
No,
Okay, thank you then.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, through you, can we please have Deputy Chief Shaw address the board?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I know that the board has a policy in place, and I believe the first offense is up to 3 days of a suspension. I believe that's the policy. I had some concerns prior to the owner getting up here. I think I have some more now, given the fact. Obviously, there's some history with the previous owners there that we had that I was afraid would repeat itself. So obviously, I'm all for starting with a clean slate. But a couple things come to jump out at me. The fact that one of the patrons had an injury and was walking down the road that time of night, 1:30, not a well-lit road. We're very fortunate that we didn't have a pedestrian accident like I believe one of you folks referred to. Somebody didn't get in a car. A head injury, you never know which way that's going to go. We've had people, pass away from the next day. Just the mere fact that it was overserved to the point of that the person was a .3, almost 4 times the legal limit, is very concerning to me as it is, and I know it is to you. Given that fact, that we would ask that you impose the maximum offense on this penalty.
Yeah, and I would agree, and actually, after hearing the testimony, I would recommend that if there's another incident within the next year, that the board, typically the second offense is for 7 days, I'd recommend doubling that if there is something within the next year or so, or we'll say the next 12 months.
I think through the chair, this is the first offense under the new ownership, and I think it's, assuming it's a wake-up call for Mr. Zura that this happened, and the seriousness of it, and it gives us the leeway to give the max of the first offense, which is the minimum of 3 days. A written warning of a verbal suspension or
3 days, yeah.
3 days.
Mr. Chair, through you, can I just ask a question of
Right ahead.
Deputy Chief Shaw? Deputy Chief Shaw, do you, either you personally or someone in the department, do you make yourselves available to liquor license holders to, talk to them about issues that might come up like this, and, give them advice or recommendations as to how to avoid these types of situations?
Sure, if anybody ever has any questions like that, they can always contact myself, the lieutenant, the chief's office. We're more than happy to sit down and discuss issues that they have with their establishments. Absolutely. We're very easy to be, very, very accessible to the public.
Anything further, Mr. Chair?
Chair, perhaps as you debate what to recommend, maybe asking the owner to meet with the police chief would be, or someone from the police department would be an appropriate recommendation.
Absolutely. All right, So is there a recommendation from the board?
So,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, before we get to that point,
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so as you enter your deliberations, so there's two things that require discussion and decision. The first is, has a violation here been proven? And if the answer to that question is yes, then the second question is what, if any, penalty should be imposed? So as to the first question, you'll see in the hearing notice that there are 4 charges. And in my opinion, the elements of each of these 4 charges have been met by the evidence that has been presented to you. As to the first charge, violation of terms of the license and Chapter 138, Section 12, establishment open after hours. The license here makes it very clear that the premises are to be closed by 1:00 a.m. The testimony, the admission of the bartender was that people were in the bar and being served after those hours. What the law makes clear in Section 12 is that that the only persons authorized to be in the establishment after hours are staff who are in charge of closing, cleaning, or repairs. So if anybody is there after hours for any other purpose, then there is a violation of Section 12. And here, not only did the bartender admit that she was serving these individuals after hours, but she herself was there and did not appear to be, cleaning, closing, or repairing the establishment. So, in my opinion, there are sufficient facts here for you to find that the first charge is sustained. And my recommendation would be, if you're so inclined, to make a motion and take a vote to that effect.
Would we want to do that all after hearing all 4 charges, or do you think we should be dealing with that on an individual charge basis?
My recommendation is that you do it as to each charge, so that there's a clear record as to what violations, if any, you've found.
Mr. Chair, with that said, I'd make a recommendation to agree that there was an after-hours serving violation in violation of the liquor law.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board regarding the first violation?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Then we have.
Thank you. Yes, okay, so as to the second charge, violation of 204 CMR 2.05, Section 2, permitting a disorder, disturbance, or illegality to take place on the licensed premises. This is a regulation of the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission, and it really requires that a license holder exercise a high degree of management and control over the licensed establishment, and so that the license holder is responsible for any disorder or violation of law that occurs on the premises, whether they're there or not. Here, the evidence before you shows that the only employee on duty at the time was herself intoxicated and possibly high on drugs. That there was a fight. She told the officers that this fight occurred inside the establishment, that these individuals were intoxicated, that she was serving them after hours. This incident carried outside the establishment into the parking lot and on the public way. In my opinion, it is clear that these facts establish that there has been a disorder and illegality that took place on the licensed premises.
The motion from the board in regards to the second charge.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend that there is a finding of disorderly disturbance on the premises in contravention of the ABCC regulations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. And then in regards to the third offense.
Thank you. The third offense, violation of Chapter 138, Section 69, service of alcohol to an intoxicated person. This statute, again, prohibits an establishment from serving someone who is already intoxicated. The evidence that you heard here tonight is that 2 individuals were served after hours, which means after 1:00 PM. Officers encountered these individuals approximately 30 minutes later, and they were both highly intoxicated at that time. One at approximately twice the legal limit, the other 4 times the legal limit. That is a tremendous amount of alcohol for an individual to consume in a short period of time. Now, the law requires that in order to be found in violation of this provision, the person serving the individual had to have a reasonable basis to know that the person was intoxicated. So the question is, based on these facts, can you find that a reasonable person would have found these individuals to be intoxicated when she served them at 1:00 in the morning on that date? And I would submit to you that given their extremely high level of intoxication, combined with their behavior, that they were fighting in the establishment, that the fight carried on outside, and that one individual had a head injury and was wandering around in the streets, in my opinion, you can find that a reasonable person would have known not to serve these individuals at that time.
Is there a motion from the board regarding the third offense?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a motion to find that there is a service to an intoxicated person violation.
Second.
Motion second. Is there any other discussion? If not, then will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes.
Thank you. And as to the final charge, hindering an investigation, there was evidence in the police report that the bartender on duty was giving evasive answers as to what happened that evening, that she attempted to contact the owner who was either not reachable or not responding. This, sort of type of behavior really prevented responding officers from getting to the bottom of what happened and securing the establishment so that they can go about their business. In my opinion, these facts established that there was a hindrance of their investigation.
Do the motion from the board in regards to the fourth offense?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to find that there was a hindering of the investigation in this case.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Now that we have established that there is a violation on each of the offenses, is there a recommendation or a motion from the board on regards to what the penalty should be?
Mr. Chairman, I think our town administrator was saying the second offense gives kind of the suspension of license for a minimum of 7 days, so that to me, the high end of the first offense would be just below that. So I would then make a recommendation for a suspension of license for 6 days served consecutively, starting with I believe Mrs. Erb said they start on a Tuesday to run concurrently through a Saturday.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I could, just to make sure that the record is clear, my understanding is that the board's guidelines establish that for a first offense, the penalty will be anything from a written warning up to a 3-day
Up to a
suspension.
Yeah, that's,
Up
what
to
I
a
have in
minimum
front of
of
me is
3
it's a
days.
minimum of 3 days.
Minimum
So
of
it does
3
not
days.
say a maximum,
It
it
does,
says a
yeah.
minimum.
Gotcha.
That's why I made the recommendation
Herbal
for the motion.
And in terms of discussion, I'd also ask that the licensed owner reach out to a representative of the Webster Police Department to discuss preventative measures that they could take going forward to prevent future incidents such as this, if you want to.
I would
Add
add that
that
to
to
my
your
motion,
motion.
certainly.
Right. So you have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes, thank you. This time, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing for application of wine and malt alcohol license from Thai Lemongrass.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, generally, you pull the board.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jordan?
Yes. Right, we have a representative from Thai Lemongrass.
So you were here just a couple of months ago. Do you mind just filling us in on what's happened, and then we can make a decision?
Okay. My name is Daphne Sangvilay. I'm the owner of Thai Lemongrass. In January, we applied for BYOB, and now we apply for beer and wine.
Yeah. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's under a different ownership?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, if I remember correctly, there was an issue with the previous owner. They chose not to renew their beer and wine license and switched to a BYOB until they could change ownership. Okay. And being that this is a public hearing, is there anyone wishing to speak against the change of license for Thai Lemongrass? If not, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
So moved to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, generally pull the board.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jordan?
Yes. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, generally pull the board.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jordan?
Yes. Right, at this time I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing for transfer of all alcohol license to Mama's Kitchen.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jordan?
Yes. Right, and we have representatives from Mama's Kitchen.
Good evening.
Good evening. You want to just state your name?
Sure. My name's Attorney Joseph Lucia. We filed the paperwork in regards to it. The two people next to me are the principals in it. I'll ask that they introduce themselves, please.
Julie Faber.
We filed a common vicular license and also for the transfer of the liquor license.
And Jen, we have, all of the paperwork's been reviewed and everything's sufficient to be submitted.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just one quick
Yep.
question for our secretary. We had an applicant's statement for one of the 50% owners. Do we need one from the other?
There's some materials that I pulled out because they had social security numbers on it, so that may be on some of the materials that I
Okay,
pulled
because
out.
there's only one, as long as we have both, if we need both. I only found one in our package for,
I went
Ms.
through
Hager?
everything and it's complete, so, yeah, they only require one.
okay, thank you. That's the only question I had.
All right. Is there a motion from the board?
So moved to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If
Other
not,
than best of luck to you.
right, Jen, will
So,
you pull the board?
real quick,
Yep.
Please
do
take
you know when
our
you're
vote.
opening?
We don't know
We're
yet.
just, we're waiting for this meeting
Oh,
first.
okay.
Once it's done and figured, we don't.
Once we get the common vic license, then we're gonna go from there. We may open it without the liquor to begin with. And then just have it operating. We have to close on the rest of the assets to be able to do that, but it should be shortly.
I'm sorry, I jumped in front of the
Oh,
vote.
okay.
Yeah,
I apologize.
we still haven't taken our vote.
Yeah.
Just for the record, too, Mr. Lucia, Attorney Lucia is also an accountant, so he knows his stuff.
Thank you.
Right, Joe?
Condolences.
It's been a long time.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, so if there's any other discussion, if not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Then we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is there any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jordan?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't quite sure. Did we do the common vic or just the all alcohol?
Then there was a request for the common
Yeah,
victory.
so
That's separate.
maybe we should just take a separate
Yeah.
vote on that.
So is there a motion
So moved.
Second.
to approve the common victular? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Moving on, we have an application for the change of manager on all alcohol license for Webster Fish and Game Associates Incorporated. Do we have any representatives here from the Fish and Game?
No, typically, I told them they didn't need to come. It's
Okay.
pretty straightforward.
No. And all of the paperwork is in order for the
Mhm.
change of manager? Right, is there a motion from the board?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the change of manager for Webster Fish and Game and Associates. Is there any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next, we have an application for a change of DBA, Indian Ranch Recreation, Inc. And all of the paperwork is in line for that. All right, is there a motion from the board?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the change of DBA for Indian Ranch Recreation Incorporated. Is there any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Right,
Mr. Chairman, we
Yes.
have some staff members waiting. If we could skip to maybe the first item under new business, and then we can also do right after that, the School Building Authority Statement of
absolutely.
Interest.
Not a problem.
Okay.
So we'll ask,
Yeah, if we could have Bill and Greg, if you want to come up. So I believe we have three separate requests for abatements for water and sewer. So, Bill and Greg, have you decided, does one of you want to speak on them, or do you want me to cover them?
I'll cover them.
Okay.
Good evening, Chairman and Selectmen. First one would be Demon Deacon Realty, 6 River Court.
and, I'm actually going to recuse myself on this one as that individual is my landlord at a different property address. So I'm going to ask Vice Chairman Becker to take over.
And actually, since we're interrupting Bill, I forgot we have not introduced Greg Woods to you. So Greg is the new water superintendent. He started in January, and he's been doing a great job, and he's getting his feet wet. So we,
Oh.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Another remark like that, Mr. Administrator, we're gonna have him on Bill's side. You know what I'm saying?
okay, go ahead, Bill.
Have to go to the restaurant. As usual, these were, each one of these abatements was investigated by the Water Department. Doran made a summary judgment. I reviewed it, and we did agree on it. It was a running toilet at this address. The consumption was very high. But since the water did pass through the meter and it did flow into the sewer system, we both agreed that it should be denied.
So, Bill or Greg, a running toilet, will that really consume 25,000 cubic feet of water over 3 months?
It adds up pretty fast.
Okay.
Yes.
Through the chair, trust me, it can.
Okay.
Been there, done that.
And I realize that certainly our policy is if the water goes from our system through the sewer, that is the charge. The only additional point in here was the applicant for this abatement did indicate that they're helping out some kind of local charities. I don't know if that helps us at all, but I realize this is about 5 times the normal quarterly charge, and I'm not sure if that's something we should or could take into consideration.
Well, if I may, through the chair again, and with all due respect to the vice chair, I've had tenants, and that's exactly what happened And I'm gonna tell you, I didn't get any breaks, whether I give it to charity or whatever. I had to pay the bill, period, and make sure the repairs are done also.
Yeah, I'm referring to the letter that we received for the
I know.
application abatement, so.
And he's a good person, don't get me wrong. I'm not,
So we have a recommendation from Mr. Burke to deny. Any other discussion? If not, Jen, could you pull the board, please?
Is there a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Oh, I'll make a motion that we go along with the suggestion from the Water and Sewer
Second.
Department.
Now, Jen, could you pull the board, please?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes,
Selectman Becker?
Yes. Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
The next one I have is for 38 Brook Street, Webster. Once again, it was a running toilet. We both reviewed the information. They did replace the toilet, but the water did pass through the meter and it did flow through the system.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a recommendation to deny the request.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to deny the request. Is there any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes.
And the last one was 46 Upland Ave. The town had noticed that there was an elevated usage there. They did try to reach the owner. The owner didn't call back. Later on, after the owner did get back in touch with the water department, they did find a leak. Excuse me, they didn't find a leak. There was nothing really unusual they could discern, but the water did pass through the meter and it did flow into the sewer system.
Right, and Bill, if I recall correctly, it peaked and then came back down to the historic level, correct?
Yes, there's a couple of units in that building, I believe.
And through the chair,
Yes.
Ms. Burke, is there a way, do we at all test the meters? If someone does have, can they do a flow test on it
Yes.
to make sure there's nothing
We do
stuck?
have equipment to test and verify the accuracy of the meters.
And was that done here?
I do not think it was for this account.
I
It
don't
was
believe
not
it
pulled out and tested, but they typically can do a field test.
Yeah, I mean, this is very unusual. Again, it's going from the prior year of about 1,600 to 5,700. So it would seem to be obvious something was going on. But did they indicate that they ultimately got the message that the water
Yes,
department
it's-
called, and they just disregarded the call, or?
I believe they called them several times, that is the policy.
Okay.
When they do take the readings for the billing, they go through all the bills and they look at the ones that have very high usage, they jump right out at you once you're going through and you when you know what you're looking for. So immediately in a bill like this, they call the owner.
Thank you.
Through the chair, how long?
They do now.
Oh, they do now. I already paid the damn thing.
Through the chair, how long did it take between the time that you guys had called and then they finally called you back? Was it when they got the bill or?
I believe it was when they got the bill.
Okay. So was that like a couple of weeks?
Yeah, that would have been about 12 days, 10 days.
And I guess here, again, it's just worth reiterating that is the policy of the town, because the water has flown from our system through the sewer, that it's not fair to the other ratepayers, the other users, to put the burden on them, so. With that said, I'd make a motion to deny.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if we could invite the school department up to talk about the next item.
Absolutely.
Uh-oh.
You missed the first hour, so.
Raring to go.
It was wonderful television,
Yeah,
Mr. Town
you were great.
Administrator. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for having us here tonight. Ted Avalos, Assistant Superintendent for Business with the Webster Public Schools, temporarily.
Counting the days?
Seriously. To my left, I have, and I don't believe I've had the opportunity to introduce you to Superintendent Ruth Ann Gogan, who joined us on July 1. And she also is getting her feet wet in a different manner. But we're very, very happy to have Ms. Gogan on board. And it's been a wonderful introduction this year, and we're doing some really great things. And Mrs. Gogan is going to brief you on some of the issues in the SOI that we wish to address on the program side. And to my right, I have Mrs. Monique Perangeli, who is my successor, and will be taking over on March 1st. So you won't have Mr. Avalos to kick around anymore. You can start working on Mrs.
We'll miss
Perangeli
you.
as early as
Yeah.
March 1st.
No.
It is February, heading into spring, and I guess that means it's our annual visit to the Board of Selectmen for our statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. As you know, they have opened the submitting time period, and I believe I've issued a package out of information for you. I certainly am not going to go through it, but just to highlight the major areas that the Mass School Building Authority obviously participates with communities in renovating, putting on additions, or actually building new schools throughout the Commonwealth. And as we know, we've been has seen the benefit of 2 of those with our new middle school in 2005 and a brand new elementary school in 2015. Both excellent projects and all funded with reimbursement money from the MSBA. So that leaves us with our high school. It is part of what we would call the core program. There are 2 programs with the Mass School Building Authority. One is the Accelerated Repair Program, and the other is the core program. We have brought the possibility of applying under the Accelerated Repair Program, which typically has a quicker turnaround. However, we do not feel that the Accelerated Repair Program would meet all of our needs. So we are once again going to apply for the core program, which includes all of the accelerated repairs that we need, all of the repairs that we need, plus some renovation in order to provide some programming that we feel is critical to the future of our school system. So as part of that, the statement of interest process, the SOI filing period, as I mentioned, is now underway. In order to submit an application, we need 2 votes, one by the Board of Selectmen to authorize the superintendent to submit a statement of interest to the MSBA, and the other is a vote by the school committee, which we will be presenting tomorrow night. I also included some frequently asked questions in case you want to gather a little bit more information on how the process works. And I also included a draft of the SOI that we will be submitting on Wednesday following the 2 votes, hopefully here tonight and tomorrow night. We are applying under priority 5, I believe it is, which is the replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility system, such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems, to increase conservation, decrease energy, et cetera, and also, of course, to improve any programming that we have. We've been through a lot of this before, so I will just mention that you know, the key to our repairs and renovations include the mechanical systems. Our boilers are original to the building from 1979, so they're going on 40 years old. The HVAC system is the same. All of the unit ventilators in the classrooms and other offices have not been touched other than for, you know, minor repairs to keep them running. The roof is a little younger than original. The project, when it was built in 1979, came with a claim that the roof was not installed properly, and after 10 years of hard work, the town got a brand-new roof for that high school. So the roof was installed in 1990. Still probably past its life expectancy, and we've had a few minor leaks in it that we patch here and there, but we've also had a report that we had done last summer that indicated to us that the roof is in decent shape, and it's in no, there's no urgency there, sense that it might fail on us. But the boilers have needed major repairs. We just had another one this past September. Rear section of the boiler failed, needed to be removed and replaced. So it's starting to send messages to us that, you know, that it's time, and we knew that several years ago when we filed our first statement of interest. The other things are the windows. The windows are original. They're not energy efficient. They're starting to fail. Seals are breaking. And so those really need to be replaced. And then you've got things internally like plumbing. All of the plumbing really needs to be replaced. We've had pipes that are failing now, and these are interior pipes that have never been exposed to outside weather. So they need to be replaced as well as all the restroom fixtures, which are all the you know, kitchen fixtures. You know, 40 years is a long time with hard use to keep up. And they're all items that we would love to see renovated or replaced. And then you've got things, safety issues. We're talking about things like doors, interior doors. They're old, the exterior doors. I mean, we maintain them, but they're 40 years old with, you know, hundreds of school children every day banging in and out of those doors for 40 years. So you can imagine that they could use replacing there as well. And then we talk about things like ceilings and lighting and all of the other items that would be very appropriate to replace after 40 years. One of the major pluses of this type of a renovation project, though, is that it allows us to work inside the building to provide additional programming. As you know, with the building of Park Ave, our 7 through 12 high school, junior, senior high school became a 9-12 true high school, which allowed some excess capacity in the school. We've already begun to utilize that excess capacity as we promised the MSBA when we built Park Ave. One of it is renovating 7,500 square feet to put our district offices in there. And we anticipate getting an occupancy permit by the end of this week. We're looking forward to moving into our new facility by the end of the month. But the other excess capacity, we're also utilizing it by renting some space out to the local collaborative for special needs, Southern Worcester County, and we have our own program as well that we were able to house internally and save some money by not sending children out of district and keeping them in district, and that's worked out great for us as well. But there were some other things that we would really like to do, particularly on the vocational side, and I'll let Mrs. Gogan explain some of the things and ideas that we have towards that process.
Certainly, thank you. First, I'd like to let everyone know about some of the wonderful things that are happening at Bartlett High School. And a renovation project would enhance the educational environment, not only for our students, but for the community as well. Our students, this past weekend alone, our cheerleaders are placed 12th in the Nationals down at Disney. Our show choir received a grand championship award at the high school. Our middle school show choir received a best vocals award. We had a very busy weekend. Our Bartlett Jazz Band and Big Band played at the Boston Heinz Center, which are wonderful opportunities for our students. And taking our building and renovating it would allow us to expand not only our academic, but our enrichment activities for our students. And one of the proposals in the plan that you have before you is to expand our hands-on vocational learning opportunities for students that need more of a multisensory approach. And that's important for many reasons. Students learn very differently, and not all students learn in a conventional college-ready teacher-led class, and so we're looking to enhance our programs by potentially adding some biotechnical programs and some robotics and more hands-on opportunities. And renovating Bartlett is, I think, being new here, I can say this, I think a necessity for the community. It's not just for the students, but for the entire community. Looking at our athletic fields and our surroundings, they all need to be upgraded. In terms of safety, safety alone, schools are, we house 400 to 500 students in there. We need to make sure that we have the safety protocols in place, which we need to really look at. I'm happy to answer any program questions. We currently offer multiple different types of programs. We have a special education program for 18 to 22-year-olds. We have an alternative program for students at the high school. We have a dropout recovery program. We have the Nichols Honors program. But we're really looking to build our programs to keep students in Webster. And this would give us the opportunity to expand.
Any questions from the board?
Just a comment, it was extremely well written, and I know not what's in here, but I appreciate all the Facebook posts, because we do, Dr. Gogan puts on there. I know I read them and just read about the show choir as well, but you kind of had us at hello. I mean, this is something we have to do. It's very well written. We just hope, is there anything that we could do to help promote this at the state level? We as a Board of Selectmen or individual selectmen or what have you?
I would say, Mr. Becker, that we have had some support recently. Representative McKenna has advocated for us, and he's already reached out to us since we were not accepted into the program in December, and wishes to get together, and maybe a representative of the board might want to sit in, or the town administrator, moving forward. I can tell you that we were very, very close. 2 years ago, we actually had a senior study done, which is the between step between submitting it and getting approved. And only a select few get the senior study. And they actually sent, a team down to take a look at our facility. And I think in conversation with the MSBA, there isn't any doubt that they feel that this is a worthy project, and that it is worthy of being accepted into their program and partnering with them to do this renovation work. The issue, as always, is with funding. And if you kind of look at some of the projects that have been approved the last couple of years, you find some extraordinary projects. Large high schools. I'm thinking about one in Lowell, one in Waltham, I believe, one in Somerville, I think. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. That can eat up a fund awful quickly. Our elementary school was $35 million. So for a $350 million high school, you could have built 10 elementary schools, or you could have renovated 20 Bartlett high schools. So it's a matter, I think, of getting our message in there. I think utilizing our efforts at Beacon Hill helps, and hopefully, we can convince them that our project is worthwhile and that it's time. I might also mention too that one of the areas that we didn't talk about, but which is critical, is the accreditation of the high school. We recently had our 10-year accreditation review. I believe they put us on a warning status, and one of the issues is the facility. And I'm pleased to say that all of the other areas have been covered, and they've taken us since off warning status, but they are looking at us closely because our promise was we would continue to apply to the MSBA to get the funding needed. This is an extraordinary renovation. When you're talking about roofs and windows and boilers and HVAC and all of that, I mean, I'm going to be submitting a capital improvement plan to the town administrator at the end of the month. It's going to include, all of the what we feel are needy repairs. It's all based off of a capital improvement study that's now, believe it or not, 10 years old, and the funding for that, I should say the pricing for that, the cost, I have tried to keep up with over the course of 10 years, but I'll be submitting one to the town administrator that's going to look in the $16 to $17 million range.
Mr. Ellis, do we have a number, a cost figure associated with the SOI here?
Not necessarily.
No, they don't ask for that, it's not
Yeah,
here.
they don't ask for it. Basically, the procedure is if you are accepted into the program, then they will approve a feasibility study. And they will, you will need to authorize an amount of money to conduct a feasibility study, which is all reimbursable by the MSBA at our reimbursable rate. I believe our current rate remains around the 74 to 75% range, which is very attractive.
Well, let's hope we get there with the
And
feasibility
so
study.
we'd love to get there right before any of that changes. But, just doing the math, $16 or $17 million in repairs and renovations, is quite a lot for a small community like us. And so we rely on state support. The 25% of $4 million is a lot more palatable. And when you consider the fact that would give us 3 facilities, that were going to take us for the next umpteen years, we won't have to worry about, this type of project for
I believe
a
Mrs.
while.
Perriangeli in very good shape.
Exactly, exactly.
So Ted, it's, we're not looking at the hundreds of $1 million projects. We're
No.
looking at more of the, a little more than 16, but not.
Yes.
Not 70 million.
No, not by any means. No, structurally, the building is sound. And I think everyone that has been in that building will also attest to the fact that it's been well-maintained. And the MSBA was the first, when they did their senior study, to commend us on the fact that we do maintain our buildings. And we take a sense of pride in the fact that the townspeople have appropriated money to build these buildings, and it's our duty to maintain them, and we do the best we can with what we have. So.
And there's a really nice new wing, I hear.
There is a brand-new wing that we'll be inviting you, hopefully I'll get invited to a little grand opening that we would love to have soon after. We would love to invite our friends from Bay Path who contributed so much to that project to show off their work. I know the students would love to be able to do that, and I think you'll be pleased with what you see, the final product, for what was relatively cheap money, considering all the work Bay Path did.
Could be some naming opportunities, Ted.
There you go.
So did they save you one of the red doors from the wing to take home with you? As a
Well,
reminder?
I don't think I'm leaving Filmer, so I don't know what's going to happen with Filmer, but I may be still stuck in the closet with Miss Bartholomew or Mr. Staroster, so I'm
It's fitting, he started his first grade class in there, so it's fitting that he ends this one.
So you're saying you're coming out of the closet?
yes, I'm coming out. I'm coming out.
Excuse me, if I may, Ted, didn't you start at School Street School?
Yes, but only for a couple of days, Mr. Miller, and then I moved to East
Miss
Village.
Locke? Okay, because Miss
And I
Locke
was
was a
quickly
kindergarten
thrown out of
teacher,
School
okay.
Street and deposited in Fillmore.
So then, do we have, I know you included a recommended motion.
The motion is
Done.
strict, and the MSBA looks for this motion to be approved, and then certified vote statement needs to accompany that, which I believe Jennifer has.
Yeah.
And she'll take care of that for us.
I can read it, Mr. Chair, if there aren't any other questions.
Yep, there's nothing else, if there's a motion from the board?
So moved.
I'll read the motion. Having convened in an open meeting on February 12th, 2018, prior to the closing date, the Board of Selectmen of Webster, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the Statement of Interest form dated February 14th, 2018, for Bartlett High School located at 52 Lake Parkway, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority category for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this Statement of Interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
All right, so that is our motion, we have a second for that?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could make just one more comment. And one of the things about the SOI, I think that's important that we need to know, and it's still, I think maybe a factor in our not getting accepted into the program, is the fact that we still have a project outstanding right now, as we know. The Park Avenue project has not been closed out yet. I just want to let the Board of Selectmen know that I was here sitting in the back when the DLS was here giving their report. And if I could have, I would have jumped up, I think, and made a scene, but I tried to restrain myself. I was very upset with the report that they presented. Number one, because there's a lot of, as you know, confidential information going on right now, as we are in a real delicate situation trying to close this project out. And the fact that they were exposing this in public had an opportunity to jeopardize our stand as we try to close this project out. And so our attorneys have reached out to the DLS to let them know that it was not appropriate for them to discuss that in public. And they agreed, and they have also agreed to change their procedures moving forward. Unfortunately, it's not going to do anything for us, and I'm hoping that nothing does affect our ability to move forward and close this project out. But I just wanted to let you know that the people who sat here and told the board and the townspeople that it didn't appear anybody knew what was going on, that there was no clean definition of responsibilities, that it didn't seem like anyone in town was knowledgeable about where the process was, that there were these millions of dollars outstanding that the MSBA is holding not true. That upset me very much. I can tell you that being a member of the school district and participating in all of the school building committee meetings, we are very aware of what's going on, and we have been following this extremely closely. And we are still in the process of trying to settle and get this project closed out. And we have had several meetings and continue to do so. So I don't want anybody particularly the board or the community, to think that this project has been ignored or not followed, or for some reason, nobody seems to know what's going on. That is absolutely not true. And I was pleased that our attorney was able to get that message across to DLS, and I appreciate you allowing me to get that message across to the Board of Selectmen and the community. So,
And I'll just echo that, and Andrew, I think you're on the actual
Yes.
school building committee, and the building committee is very aware of where
Absolutely.
they stand, and
We've had
they're
multiple
very,
meetings.
hopefully very close to
Yes.
finishing everything.
I'm anticipating that next meeting.
I think,
instead.
yes, I think the next meeting will be a pleasant one, I hope so. And finally, since this is gonna be my last meeting as a official with the school district, I just wanna say thank you to the Board of Selectmen for all your support. I know we've had our differences in the past, but you know what, we're all here for the same reason, and that's for the betterment of our school district and our community. I think we all have the best interests at heart. And I want to thank you to the new town administrator who's come on board and has been nothing but supportive since then. And I know everyone here looks forward to working in the future with him and all of you. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Atlas, for all your dedicated years. May your move into retirement be as smooth as from banking to school.
Yeah.
I don't know how smooth it was.
Well, thank you for all you've done, too.
We can still call you, right?
Yes, yeah.
He might not
Through
answer.
Mrs. Perangeli's office, because my phone's usually on Do Not Disturb.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, sorry. Andrew, we still have Carol here, so maybe we can
Sure,
discuss the beach fees.
absolutely. So Carol, if you want to come on up,
Mr. Chairman, on this one, I will recuse myself.
not a problem.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so it's that time of year again where we need to set beach rates, make any changes that we're thinking of making. We, as in the packet that I showed you, and this is a very conservative number. I'm still trying to figure out Munis, so there could be some expenses that I didn't find out of the thousands of accounts that are in there. So including the fireworks, we ran at a deficit of $16,840 last year. And it was due mostly to the fireworks. If the beach ran on its own, we probably would have broken even, maybe a little bit ahead. But for the suggestions on mitigating expenses, I went through the weekly, daily intake. Tuesday, for example, over a 6-week period, we took in just over $700. And bare minimum for payroll on a Tuesday would be just over $500 a day. So we lose money every Tuesday that we're staffed. I'm suggesting that other than a caretaker going in at the end of the day and cleaning the bathrooms and so forth so that we can keep the beach house open, that we don't staff the beach on Tuesdays. It just, even having somebody work the gate the entire day wouldn't make enough to cover what we take in. So it just doesn't seem like a reasonable thing to do.
Right, and we asked town council and our insurance company what they thought of that, and they said as long as it's well posted, that there's no lifeguard on duty, we don't have any specific risk, because there's lots of other times where it's
The
available for
beaches,
people to go out there.
right now you could go on the ice and there's nobody stopping you if the ice isn't safe. It's there, and when the ice is melted pre-season, at the end of season, you can go in and even do that. And state beaches, Douglas State Beach, Buffinville State Beach, they don't have lifeguards on duty. So it isn't a necessity. It's a nice offering that we have, and I don't want to take it away, But I don't want to, for the sake of having lifeguards, lose money on a daily basis, literally. And, which segues into the second suggestion is extending the beach season on weekends. I'm going to meet with Jean. I gotta reach out to her, see in the senior tax write-off program, if there are any seniors wanting to do that position, the gate position on weekends. Maybe not a full 12-hour day. Maybe we do it 10 to 4, 9 to 4, something like that. See how it goes. Be the first year doing it. If we find that, extending the season really isn't effective, next year we go back to the regular season that we've had. But at least check it out. But again, there wouldn't be lifeguards on duty, and we'd have it well posted. Thinking a big banner right at the gate that we can roll up and put down when there are lifeguards on duty and when there aren't. And just so that people know. And so that's it as far as, changes to the operation of the beach. As far as the beach fees, not proposing many changes. First, I would like to make the season stickers for non-resident watercraft not available. Have them pay the daily rate every time they come in. And this hopefully, with the bylaw that's still sitting at the state under review, it'll either lessen traffic on the beach because people don't want to pay that daily rate every week, or it will bring in more money. But either way, we come out, I think, ahead on that one. And currently, the additional residential stickers are unlimited and $5 each. I'd like to bring that back to limit to 1 per household and bring it up to $10. That is, and when I saw that, I didn't realize it was unlimited, and for boats, for cars, anybody.
Get one and the next one's $1, isn't it? Something like that?
It was $5.
What it was several years ago.
That was
right?
several years ago, yeah. They brought it up to 5, but they made it unlimited. If my family, we had 10 cars going at one time, so, we could all go in and get that additional sticker for $5. And granted, that's not the typical household, but it could happen. And that's it.
Well, I'm okay. I'm over 65, free.
Mr. Chairman, just before we go through the fees, just a procedural question for
Yep.
Carol. On the lifeguards, I know we would post it at the entrance. Would we also, on Tuesday, someone's got to be responsible, do you put, there's no lifeguard in the seat, so, a sign on the
Yeah.
seat
And-
saying, no lifeguard on duty. You just don't want to have someone on a Tuesday go there thinking there's lifeguards and there's no sign on those seats.
Yeah.
And God forbid something happens.
Yeah, no, and that could be done as well. There is actually, I should say posted signs year-round up there that there are no lifeguards on duty, just on the off chance. But yeah,
Even though we do.
Exactly.
sometimes have
Yeah, but in the
Exactly.
summertime, people do expect that
Yeah.
they're paying a fee.
Yeah.
And, anytime from Memorial Day through Labor Day, that there's gonna be a lifeguard there.
Right.
And it's
Yeah,
out of an
no,
abundance
and
of
that
caution. You've
is-
already heard from the insurance companies, so it's the
Yeah,
insurance
no.
guy.
And honestly, we should probably put those signs up right now anyway, just so people are clear that there
Yeah.
is no one on.
Yeah.
No lifeguard.
And then procedurally, going back to the report that Mr. Mullins did several years ago now, I think it is.
Yes.
Is there any way we can get that second lane? And I'm gonna keep being
The
the
second what?
proponent, the second lane, second travel lane. If I remember the report right, they were suggesting, the committee was suggesting a lane for beach stickers, residents who
Yeah.
have stickers, so they can just kind of bypass the people who are paying the daily rate. And
I
then having a one-way coming out.
Yeah, and I will talk to Kenny about that.
could.
I'll be honest with you, that wasn't on my radar when I was getting this together. But I will talk to Kenny and see what the feasibility
Yeah, I
is
just
on
didn't
that.
want to forget it, because I know I thought it was a very good suggestion.
Yeah.
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 And when we go, when I go down, I rarely go down on Sunday afternoon when it's really busy, but,
Right.
I've never been backed up, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, Mr. Chairman, on the fees, so if you do the math, the $200 that we currently charge for non-resident with a watercraft and $25 per visit, so you get basically 8 times and you're breaking even. If you're a bass fisherman and you're going every day of the weekend and you're doing this for 9 weekends, you know, you're gonna get some complaints. We could say that certainly it's available in South Pond at the state ramp, but
Right, well,
Right.
the fee would be the non-resident motor vehicle with watercraft is the one.
yeah, the
would be-
$200, sorry.
Right, $200, and if you didn't have the season pass, it would be, on weekends and holidays, it would have been $50 for
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
day.
okay, so it's
you
even,
break
yeah, so it's
even
only
at
4, yeah, I was looking at the resident, so it's only 4 times. So it's, you could very well see some people up in arms over that.
Yeah, and it is, my thought on that was, again, with the bylaw that was passed on the personal watercrafts, and we don't have an answer on that, I was trying to think of another option. If the state comes back and says we can't have that bylaw, well, now, we're, you know, at least we're trying to do something.
So we don't have a breakdown of PWCs versus boats.
No.
That's,
No.
I think I read that in here,
Right.
that's the
Yeah.
tough part.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know, when you get your
Yeah.
beach sticker, all you have to do is bring a copy of your registration in for your vehicle to show
Right.
whether you're a resident or non-resident. You don't have to bring the registration for the vessel with
Right.
you.
Right. Once you get that sticker, you can,
Is there any, I know oftentimes the Attorney General's office asks us to sign a letter to help them postpone their decision. Has that,
No, but the
We received
decision's
that
due
yet.
this month, so.
I think tomorrow, in
So you
fact.
may
So
get
we'll
that.
probably do
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
letter
I guess it's probably
tomorrow.
like to.
And I would have waited until March, but Ruby says we've got to get these stickers ordered.
I have no other question, I think
Okay.
the changes are,
Yeah, as long as you're
Good
still
changes.
offering the daily option.
Right.
Yep.
That would be.
Yep.
So is there a motion from the board to either recommend or deny or modify the recommendations for the fees?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendations.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
Chair's prerogative.
Yeah. Well, I'll make the motion to second for discussion purposes. So we have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Mr. Selectman Miller, do you have any questions or concerns?
I'm just looking at the
Okay.
additional household sticker limit 1, so that's an extra $10 if I get one, even though I'm a senior citizen.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Even if I'm a senior citizen, I
Oh, no,
got
no, well, senior citizens.
free.
They're free.
You're free.
Right.
But if I
65
want
and
one,
older.
but if I want one for my other car,
Well, you
Fine.
can't,
I
well,
mean, I
you're still
can't,
a
of
senior
course I
citizen,
can.
as long as the car is registered to you, it's still free.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it would be on the additional household sticker.
Glad you're watching out for us.
It was a $5.
Well, I got charged one year and I was over that.
Well, it's because you don't look it.
Jen?
So we have a motion and a second, any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Miller,
Yes.
Selectman Becker,
Yes.
Chairman Jolder.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you so much.
So, Chairman Jolda, under
Yes.
this same item, we had the compost facility as well.
Yes.
So I just wanted to pass out, this is the current revenue and expenses for the compost facility. So this front page is for the calendar year 2017. So the first portion is revenue brought, well, the top third of the page is direct expenses for running the compost. The bottom page is kind of indirect costs that are kind of sunk costs with the DPW employees anyway. So if you recall, we increased the fee to $40 this past year. So we sold 258, and made over, a little over $10,000. However, between paying for the stickers, the employees, and the part-time seasonal help to be there during the daytime hours, it runs at a deficit of about $4,000. If you look on the back page, this is what the operations looked like in calendar year 16. So we also ran in a deficit about $4,500 that year, but we increased the price from 25 to 40, so you can see that the number of stickers sold dropped from 369 to 258. So even though we tried to offset the deficit by increasing the price, we weren't successful because people just didn't buy stickers. So I guess we learned that stickers are very elastic. Yeah. So there's a couple different options. One option is to just decrease the expenses of the compost facility. So as Carol mentioned, finding a senior work-off person to sit there during the days is one of the options that we're trying to do. I've also heard a lot of complaints that the facility is only open at certain Saturdays, weekends. And actually, if you look at the costs, those are done by the highway employees on Saturdays, and so the Saturday costs aren't all that expensive. It's the weekly cost of having the employee there on most weekdays. So what I'm going to suggest, which I don't think will be very popular, but on the next page here, I had 3 options last year that we discussed. One of them was going to the 40. So I'm going to again recommend that we try option 3, where we have the compost stickers for $30 for regular members of the public, and then for veterans, have it 50% off at $15. So if we had that amount, similar to the number in calendar year 16 that purchased stickers, we'd bring in about $14,000 in. If we have the reduced amount that we had this year, it would only bring about $11,000 in, but I think the chances of selling more stickers would be a lot higher because we've reduced the price a little bit. So and I also included in here the fees for other compost facilities in surrounding towns. So Uxbridge, theirs is free. Southbridge, theirs is free. Auburn has a program where they pick it up at your curb. Dudley is $35. We seem to be the highest one around at $40. So, I mean, this could be something that if the board wants, we can keep it at the set fees and just know that it's not self-sufficient and we're okay with supplementing it with other resources. But I think my goal was to try to keep it self-sufficient.
Just a question. Would it be possible to change the operating hours and eliminate the weekdays and have it open every Saturday?
Yeah, so that's certainly an option.
That way you eliminate your weekly expense and you're only paying for Saturdays.
Yeah.
And I think if you increase the availability that's for the residents, they may be more inclined to buy a sticker if they know that they're gonna have access to the compost facility during the season on every Saturday.
Yeah, so if we wanted to, Saturdays we could have a Public Works employee be there, like they currently do, but just every Saturday. And then on weekdays, if we can have a consistent senior work-off person there to man the facility, we can operate it that way.
Yeah, because I know one of the biggest concerns I've heard from residents is the facility's only is open when it's convenient for the municipal employees, but not for the end users, the residents.
And I hear that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly from you. No.
Question, if I may,
Oh,
through the
right
chair.
ahead.
Would that, now, if you have a town employee up there, would they be getting time and a half for that?
on Saturday. That's currently the way it has been being paid. So for the 2 Saturdays a month at the beginning and at the end of the season, it costs us just over, well, almost $2,700 for the highway employees to be there on Saturday mornings.
So through the chair, but for the part-time employee that we have there, they don't get paid time and a half on a Saturday?
No, he doesn't work on Saturdays, he only works on weekdays.
Oh.
And he is there, how many hours? 40 hours?
No, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're kind of random. I can look it up.
And this is a town of Webster employee?
Yeah, he's a part-time employee. Yeah.
Now, would it be possible to put the part-time employee there on Saturdays instead of the DPW? Or is that a contract issue with the DPW?
And so it has been an ongoing practice, so
Okay.
it would need to be negotiated.
Okay.
So, maybe I can take this back, we can look at what the cost would be to operate it every Saturday and reduce it, and then I can come back with a firm proposal to see if we can have someone work weekdays, and what that might cost. So, if that's the direction the board would like to go, keeping it open more often on weekends and less on weekdays, I'll come back with a plan for that.
And you may want to consider it like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah, instead
Or
of,
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
yeah, I'll try to pull it up real quick. It's the new websites, hard to find stuff.
No.
Heard good things about the new website. It's much easier to get to the cards as well for the assessor's office and looking at tie-in bond information. It actually works on the iPad, so congratulations to whoever fixed that.
So the board, did you want Doug to continue to
I was thinking
revise and come
Yeah.
back to us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. So, real quick, this is the holiday schedule, so. Alright, yeah, I'll come back with a proposal next meeting.
All right. So getting back
Yeah,
on track, we have, under consent items, we have approval of Board of Selectmen's open session meeting minutes from December 11, 2017. Board of Selectmen open session meeting minutes from December 18, 2017. And then approval of Board of Selectmen's open session meeting minutes from January 8th, 2018.
Motion to approve all three.
Second?
We have motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to leave one minor typo with Doug,
Oh.
and he can share it with Jen. Just a misspelling of someone's name, that's all, on December 11th.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. All right, town administrator's report.
Okay. So, just a reminder, I know Andrew announced at the beginning of the meeting that we are closed next Monday for President's Day. And diving in, the highway department's done a great job with the fluctuating weather that we've had lately, with all the snow and the ice, and especially this past weekend with all the rain, it made the pothole problem kind of difficult. So just want to put that out there that if you see a pothole, please call us, call the highway department or our office, and or actually, better yet, use the e-report function on the town website, and that way we can track it better and make sure that all those get resolved.
And they did a great job, especially given that it was the weekend.
Yeah.
So a lot of orange cones out, which would have taken tires out.
Next, discussion about the opioids. So the police department put on an opioid informational meeting held at the high school in mid-January. It was great. They had the district attorney come and speak. It was a well-attended event. And actually this week on Thursday, they'll be holding another Narcan training at the Church of Reconciliation on 5 North Main. So anyone interested, that starts at 6 p.m. This past few weeks ago, the town planner and I attended a conference regarding the adult use of marijuana. If you recall, we passed a moratorium at the October town meeting that will stay in place through December. So that leaves us in a good place. There are towns that will be putting together bylaws or zoning amendments for the May meetings or for their Springtown meetings. So we can look at those, see how well they go, and see if the Attorney General's office approves those, and we'll be able to take that information, and we can either have a special meeting later on in the summer, or we can do it in our October town meeting. This past week, there was a Civil Service Commission hearing. I'm going to be reviewing how the interview process is done in the police department, and I'm going to determine if there was anything other than the applicant being determined that he would not be a successful police officer, and I'll report back on those findings. I want to recognize a couple of excellent employees. I'm a little hesitant to recognize some people because I know I'll forget some, but these are a few outstanding individuals. So Webster EMS, they did a great job helping an elderly resident. This was actually on the news a couple weeks ago. They helped her get out when there was smoke in her home. We also had one of the dispatchers. She was able to help someone that was on the 911 call that had a very difficult time with the family member, and because she was able to help and assist, it saved the problem from getting worse. Also, Dispatcher McGowan over at the dispatch center, he was able to help track someone's whereabouts using the cell phone ping system, and the police were able to meet up with that person, know exactly where they were, and de-escalate a situation that could have been very serious. Skipping to recreation, we had a Valentine's Day decoration contest on Main Street. That's why you see some of these decorations that Carol put on. So Jen was one of the judges tonight, and
Mark Becker.
And Carol. We'll have to wait to announce the winners because I don't remember who they were. And we have our winter fire event. It's Saturday, February 24th from 5 to 8 p.m. This has typically been held at the beach. We're trying something new and doing it at the French River Park. Hopefully that'll bring people to the downtown area and support some of the businesses in the area. And then we met with Mass DEP regarding licensing for a marina at the beach. Next, with the finances, we're in the process of hiring a town accountant. I did the first round of interviews. I believe we have 2 very solid candidates that I'm excited about, and we'll be interviewing them tomorrow. The interim accountant has been doing a good job reconciling accounts and looking into some of the deficits that were brought up in our most recent audit. The snow and ice budget, later on we have the 6-month review, but at the 6-month mark, it was looking pretty good. We've had a few more storms, so I still think we'll be at the amount that we were last year, which was a total expenditures of $310,000. Our budget's only $155,000, so roughly double what the budget is. But we should be able to cover that in our Springtown meeting. And now that I'm putting together the budget for next year, that's one area where we should consider increasing because we overspend every year.
Through the chair, just on that point, I remember a conversation last year where many towns don't, in fact, budget what they paid the prior year because it's, maybe it's the wrong way to do it, but if you do 155 and you think it's going to be 250, you stick with the 155 because you can overspend that one particular item.
Right.
Yep, that's
you can
right.
never decrease it.
Yeah, that's right. So you wouldn't want to go up to 310 because, but if we want to increase it to maybe 200.
Right, you'd have to really go back and look at, of course, you have
When
to
was 1 year that
be a
we did
meteorologist trying to figure out what kind of snow we're going to get as well, so.
Yeah, so the difficult thing is trying to find $155,000 at the end of the year. So if we can lessen that amount but not risk budgeting money that we're not going to need, that's the trick. So speaking of the 19 budget, department requests exceeded our expected revenue by $1 million. So that's kind of typical, but we're trying to bring those down, and a couple of things we are doing is conducting a salary survey for non-union positions. All the unions currently have a collective bargaining agreement that's in force, so we're trying to make sure that the non-union employees are adequately and appropriately paid. And then we've also reviewed all the town fees and looked at if they're, again, on an appropriate scale compared to our neighboring communities, and seeing if any of those need to be adjusted.
And through the chair, Doug, is that include the school departments, or is that just the town?
That
side?
included the school
It
department.
does, okay. Because normally they're kind of half and half.
Yeah, that's about right. So we, I'm gonna skip a couple of these because you don't need to know about all, or you can just read them. The treasurer's office did do a great job. They brought in $100,000 a couple of weeks ago by taking a property that was in tax foreclosure and finding an owner to purchase it, and that saved us from having to go out to auction and bid it out, and it was just overall a very good solution to a problem. The MMA conference that was a couple of weeks ago, one of the things that they brought out at that meeting was the municipal finance trend dashboard that the DOR is putting together. So I put a link of this on our town administrator website. So if you want to see how our spending compares to any other community in the state, you can look on there, and it's fairly intuitive and user-friendly. And our municipal aggregation was approved by the DPU, so we will be in the process of getting quotes and bids from electricity suppliers over the next several months. Under economic development, one of the things that we've asked CMRPC to do is they have a local grant program that we've asked them to look at the 395 interchanges to see if there's anything that the town could or should be doing to help promote economic development in those areas. And let's see, under infrastructure, we had a pre-construction meeting for the water. It was good. We were able to bring Greg on board and update him with what's going on at that. The current project deadline with the days specified in the contract would have it ending on July 4th, 2019. Both the contractor and obviously the town wants to see that done sooner, so hopefully we can shave some time off of that. As for the library, the 2 houses on Negus Street were torn down, and we met some members from our staff, Kenny, Mobfree, and some other community members, including our representatives, met with MassDOT to discuss Exit 2 and also Lower Gore Road and the split there from Route 16. And so MassDOT is already looking at different options for Exit 2, whether that's a roundabout or signalization on both the on-ramps, off-ramps on both sides of the freeway. So that'll help traffic go through there better and safer. And then they are providing recommendations for how we can improve the Lower Gore split on Route 16.
You know, I think, Doug, they had mentioned this roundabout potential for the Cudworth Road piece could be like 2021, I think was the time frame.
Yeah.
That they're looking at.
Right.
So still a ways off. They don't think that it was gonna make sense to have 2 roundabouts on either side of the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't done the full analysis, but it seemed like on the west side, it would probably be a signalized interchange, and then on the other side would be a roundabout. Okay, so we were able to meet Greg tonight. Streetlights, Kenny and I met with our consultant to discuss some of the manufacturers, and we'll be purchasing one of those, or we'll be purchasing those shortly and having them installed. One thing, this is kind of minor, but we didn't have recycling here at Town Hall, so we switched that. We entered into an agreement with the Satowski schools to use their recycling dumpster, so, and that made us eligible for a $3,500 grant. And Last week, due to staff being out ill, Selectman Miller was kind enough to sponsor a pizza party for the seniors that were needed lunch at the facility, so thank you for that. Town meeting's coming up sooner than we think, so next meeting we'll open the warrant and then we'll close the warrant at the April meeting. And the new website was launched, and we will have a public explanation on tools, tips to better use it so you can make it, it has the ability to be customized for you personally, so things you care about, if you care about the Conservation Commission, it'll show that when you go onto the webpage. So we're having that meeting February 26th in this room at 6 p.m. And we're making this information, the town TA's report, as well as the board packets available on the website. And one thing that we very much need to get out there is that we have lots of vacancies on our committees, especially the planning board is, I think they're down 2 regular members and an alternate. It might be the opposite of that, but we definitely need people interested in being on the planning board, Conservation Commission, Veterans Memorial Committee. There's other committees available as well. Those are all listed on the town website. So if you know anyone that's interested, please let them know.
We have a motion to accept the town administrator's report.
Moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just one quick question. On the Narcan training, I know I've been asked about that. If someone goes and participates in that on the 15th, do they receive Narcan? So that they could administer it if a family member?
So what they'll help you sign up, and they do have some available, but you may have to provide your insurance information so that they can get it to you. So they do help you find ways to get it.
We have a motion and a second to accept the town administrator's report. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, through the chair. Section D, 1D, 1 and 2 on this. Do you need, to the administrator, are you going to seek any help to help you determine this?
Yeah, so I'm going to look at it. I'll see how far I can get in the process. If I feel like I need help, I'm certainly going to reach out and see if I can, if I need it.
Great, any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is review the format of the town administrator's evaluation.
So this was in the packet. This is also what was we used last time I was evaluated. I'm comfortable with the format that the board is as well.
Does the board have any recommendations to changing the format, or do you want to keep it consistent? Keep it as is?
If he's pleased with it.
Yeah, the only thing I would suggest is add in the goals that we had. We don't have those listed here, and
Okay. So
especially
we'll get
given
it
that you did
updated.
so well on them, you might as well get credit for them.
Okay.
List them in here if you could.
Well, in that case, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only question I had is if you think some of these should be weighted more than others. Property management's probably, in my mind, a little lower on the scale than some of the others, but I think overall, it's a fair evaluation form, and I'm pleased with it.
In line with that, we have discussion of the town administrator's goals for 2018.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, on the evaluation, we're going to prepare that individually and come at our next meeting? What's the
Yeah, so
plan?
We'll send this out for each selectman to fill out, and then we'll combine it into one, average them all out, and we'll give it to the chair to review, and then we can have that evaluation at the next meeting.
Similar to what was done with
Yeah.
the 6 months?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Then we have the draft goals for 2018, keeping with the same major formats: public health and safety, financially responsible economic development, maintaining infrastructure, effective delivery of services and operations, and then transparent, informative, engaged, and customer-friendly government. And these are the goals that were compiled by polling the board members individually, and I believe Jen compiled everything.
Yeah, and also some of it just my gut feel is from what you guys seem to think is important. So I am definitely open to any changes or amendments. If you want to give me some goal that you think is impossible to do, I'd like to try, so.
Hopefully not impossible. Lofty.
Yes.
A stretch goal.
Yeah.
So we can talk about this if we need to then at the.
At the next,
Yeah,
if that's what
we
you
can put
want.
it on the next meeting.
Well, just for argument, not arguing, but,
Discussion purposes?
discussion purposes, that's the word I was looking for.
All
On this is just a draft, doesn't mean they're necessarily in that order, am I correct?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
making sure.
Yeah, and I kept it in the order of the existing one just for
No, fine.
continuity, but,
Good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Then we have the 6-month financial report from the county administrator.
Yeah, so I emailed this out in January. Some of the deficit areas you're probably aware of. We'll have a deficit within the town accountant salaries. Town council is running high, but I think I'll be able to keep that under control. Hopefully, that will remain within budget for the rest of the year. Engineering services, as you know, we don't have a town engineer, so if there is any services that he needs to do, we have to pay him out of pocket. So hopefully I can take some of those costs and put them back to actual project costs and bring that budget down. Snow and ice has been an issue. Board of Health, there has been some illness, people out in that office, so we have a temporary employee, but those are relatively minor dollars. And then we had a couple of employees that passed away. Their payouts were not budgeted for, so those is quite a bit of money that we'll have to cover at the town meeting. And we do have some surpluses within salaries in the police department due to the vacancies. There's available funds. The electricity seems to be running pretty well, and there might be a few $1,000 in savings as well as in gasoline. And then the finance committee also has $21,000 remaining in their reserve fund. So I guess this is kind of the first time we've done this. Is this a helpful format? Do you want the whole report like I gave you? What would you like?
I think the bullet points are, I like the bullet points. It's very concise and gives an overall picture of any major issues that may be coming forward.
Yeah, I personally would like to continue to see the Munis report. I did have a few other questions on that, but I'm just an accountant, I guess. So
Well,
I'm looking at numbers, so.
It's no extra work to do that, so that's fine.
I did, Mr. Chairman, I did have just a couple questions. The free cash, we don't mention that in here, but I'm just trying to remember the numbers. If it was 1.3 or 1.6 million that had not been used from the previous year. I know we tucked some away, maybe $400,000.
Right, so the exact numbers, so it was certified roughly 2.6.
Right.
And I think we spent 700,000 putting it into the different stabilization fund.
Mostly stabilization,
Yeah. So that leaves
1.9-ish.
Yeah, right. So most of that will be available in May for our capital projects, also to fund some of the health insurance deficit. And then ideally, you're not supposed to spend all of it and let some of it devolve into the next year.
Well, and I think when we talk about the next meeting, our financial policy is getting our rainy day fund up to the prescribed amount. Would spend a lot of that money putting it towards the savings account.
Right, yeah.
Sorry,
And
that's one.
actually, we can talk about it when we talk about the Fillmore building, but some of those proceeds could be deposited directly into stabilization.
The, just a couple other questions. Did Webster, the collector's office, see an uptick with regards to tax payments because of the tax law change? I assume they.
Yeah, so we got more in December than we typically would have had.
You're gonna get less in January.
Right, exactly. So
because it doesn't, the report doesn't say anything about revenues.
Right.
So
Would you
I
like
would
that
add
as well?
that. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
could add that, I think that makes sense. If we think we're falling short or doing better than what our budgeted revenues are. We might want to know that.
Yep, so we can do that. My only concern with putting revenues is that they're not linear, most of
I
them
agree.
aren't, so as long as everyone understands,
Right.
oh, we shouldn't have 50% already collected, because,
And that actually, if I could, I had 3 or 4 questions. Some of
Yep.
those are the questions in here. In the munis report, that page 1, the longevity was all paid out. I assume that's not linear. That's one that payment is made, and
Yep.
we're at 100% instead of 50, so.
yeah, that's one time at the beginning of the fiscal year.
The same thing, it was on page 3, the professional services. There's nothing expended there. I don't know what that.
Professional
There's
services.
a 4th line down on page 3.
Oh, so 25,000?
Right.
Yeah, so that was, at the July town meeting, we transferred money into that account to pay for the streetlight audit.
Okay, and that just hasn't been paid yet.
Yeah.
You talked about town council. Sorry, I should have flagged these. On page 10, at the very top, the professional services, I'm assuming, payments for maintenance of IT things are kind of front-loaded because we've overspent that.
Right, so that also, the computer equipment maintenance line and the professional services, they are somewhat intermingled.
It's just timing.
Yeah, so.
And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? All right, moving on. Discussion on whether to join the opioid litigation lawsuit to assist in the recovery of municipal costs resulting from the opioid crisis.
Yeah, so if you've seen the news, several other towns have done this lately, where a lot of the town councils in the area have joined together to create a class action, I guess they call it a mass tort, where they would go after the pharmaceutical companies that are creating all these opioids. If there were a settlement that the town got money from, they would, as part of their fees, take up to 50%. So there would be, if there is no settlement, there's no fee at all, only if the town receives some sort of money from the pharmaceutical companies. I don't know if there's specific questions. Obviously, this was prepared by town council, so they approve it as to form.
Mr. Chairman, the only couple comments I would have is, we would have to, I would think, define what our damage is. Maybe we don't, maybe just the class action, we just get a piece of it. So it makes sense to do it if there's going to be money, that's going to be shared. It's a little difficult here because we've got a private ambulance service, which does a great job. So we're not faced with that. Certainly firefighting and more police would be involved. So is there a requirement for us to find a way to document those damages, or?
So at this point, there's not. Perhaps in the future, we'd have to do that. I think the most likely scenario is that they'll look at a large lump sum and they'll split it by population or something like that.
So is there a recommendation from the board on whether or not we're going to join in the litigation?
I'd make a motion to join in the litigation.
Second. Your motion and second, any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Book?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next item is the review of the draft for the RFP for the Fillmore School.
So I'm a little torn on this because I want to have the town have enough flexibility that if there's something that we don't want to go into that area, that we have complete ability to say yes or no. But then also I don't want to make it so difficult that some regular developer won't want to bother going through the process because it's a little bit onerous. So in here, I have it that the project will be ranked on several different priorities. So one being property reuse, a redevelopment plan, economic development, employment opportunities, and evidence of financial ability. So there's a couple of different options. We can keep it the way the RFP is currently written, and that they would have to submit a proposal that details what they would do so they can be ranked on those different criteria. The second option is we make it rather simple. It would be mostly just sections 1 and 2 where we have the basic summary, set a minimum price, and then say you absolutely can't do this, but anything besides that, we're open to. So in here I have that the property won't be used for adult entertainment establishments or retail federally banned substances, and that they would have to apply for a building permit within a certain amount of time. I have 12 months. Well, what I don't want to have happen is we sell it and it sits there empty for 3 or 4 years. So right now I'm sort of leaning towards the more simple option where we just have sections 1 and 2, and then the required documents at the end for making sure that the non-collusion forms tax information.
Through the chair, I would tend to agree simpler is better. I think it's a little sophisticated for, I applaud, all the work that was put into it, but we're kind of dictating what can and can't go there. I'm a little concerned at the price. I don't know if the minimum of 400,000 makes sense. Maybe that's $250,000 or something. It just, if you look at the land assessed at 144, I don't know, if we say 400, we're basically telling someone they're gonna have to try and rehab that building, and I don't know if that's what we wanna do.
I don't think that is our goal.
Right.
So
I would have you, look, I don't know if you're asking for our, ideas on what the price is, but I think that's one that I think is a little bit too high. I think that the days need to be extended. I think April 5th might be a little bit.
It's coming up soon.
Yeah,
Right.
too quick.
So the, previously, they asked a local developer what he thought the property would probably go for, and it was around $400,000. But, we don't want to have our minimum price be the maximum price either. So I agree. I think if we put it at something like $250,000, and then we still go with the highest bidder, so.
Right. Yeah, I think just extending the dates to the April 5th. I realize you probably put this together a while ago, but you may want to do that to the end of April or early May.
As long as we have a firm price by May town meeting is what I think is important. So.
And maybe give 2 dates for a visit. You only have 1 date in here, but having 2 dates to come look at the property may make it a little easier for people to get an idea if they want to try and bid on it.
Yeah.
We don't have, as a town, we don't have a desire to say we'd like to see it raised or kept. I guess I'd ask, is that something that the selectmen would like to weigh in on?
I think, I don't want to interrupt your thought process. I think economically, it will probably need to be raised.
If I may, through the chair, that has been a big kind of an albatross around our neck as far as trying to renovate that or attempt to. I think even, I would assume, we should have asked him while he was here, but established, I know even as of 10 years ago, there were like a couple $1 million worth of just to Band-Aid the building. Of course, nobody likes to see older things go. That is not, I don't think that would come under historical.
No, it would.
It's not on the historical place.
It is
No.
not.
Register.
I mean, one thought, that I did have was maybe contacting NOAA or a group like NOAA. It's possible to have a conversation with a company that might want to do a 55 and over. That to me was the only kind of viable option, because we did redo school buildings, right up the street from us here, and obviously the one right here. But I don't know if anyone's had any conversations with.
So I spoke with Noah, not specifically about Fillmore. We were looking at other warehouse type areas, but I can reach out to them and they can submit a bid.
Maybe worth a conversation, that's all.
So is there a recommendation from the board to either do the long format or the short format for the bid?
Sure.
The short one.
Right, so Motion and a second.
I'll make it if you want a motion. I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to do the short format for the bid.
And do you need within that, the price, us to say 250, or is that up to your judgment, just based on our discussion?
It
You
can,
Or just,
At the-
just throw it in the motion, because
well, what, may I?
Yeah, we're gonna-
Just for any type of, I know, just discussion, but starting at a bid not less than?
Yeah, minimum
Yeah.
of 250, I think is what.
Yeah,
Yep.
all right, so we have a motion and a second to do the.
Yeah, I'll include the minimum
All
of
right, so
250 in my motion.
Short form with minimum bid of 250,000.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Joseph?
Yes. Right, next item is review the options and vote on the cover for the 2017 annual town report.
You don't have to do what I think, but I like this one.
So that would be option number 2 in our packet.
Yeah.
I actually like the first one, and
With the back.
on the fourth one, the back of it.
I do like that back.
Because you got the back of it, so
Oh,
you
look
guys
at the
can
front and
see.
the back.
Yeah.
The front of the fire, the tower truck, and the back of the tower truck.
Yeah, so you're
Front
kind
of
of
the
thinking
book
option
and the
1 and
back of the
3.
book.
Yeah.
One and, well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Because it's, looks like the front of the book and the back of the book.
I will also add that, with the sad passing of 2 of our police officers, inside the front cover, we'll have an in memoriam page.
Mhm.
So we'll try to remember them. Kind of like Don's idea, actually.
Slap you on those 2 seconds.
Yeah, the only thought I would have is on this one with the back, which I think is a great idea, you may just want to have the town of Webster instead of the Webster's Fire Department.
Okay.
Because it is a town of Webster report.
Mhm.
I know we're very proud of and should be, of that tower truck.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of combining the two as
Yeah,
well.
because of the front of the book and
The
the back of
front
the
of the
book.
book and the back of the book.
Looks good?
I'll make a motion. Front of the book and the back of the book.
Second,
All right, we have motion second. Any other discussion?
just to put the town of Webster on the back.
Yeah, just to
Simple,
put the
that's all.
town of the Webster on the back of the book as well.
Would you want the directional sign?
Yeah. Going into the right way.
Okay, is there any other
No, that's okay,
discussion?
no, that's fine.
If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes,
Chairman Joseph?
Yes.
and kudos to whomever took the
Yeah,
pictures.
that was,
Mm.
I'm not sure who took the pictures. Kelly Ford did the design. in the assessor's office.
Really?
Nice job.
Kudos.
Next item on the agenda is vote on the approval of community block grants from the Office of Community Development.
Included is a memo from Carol Sear. She goes through and recommends what the Webster Redevelopment Agency would like to see done with the CDBG mini entitlement program, which is they'd like to do the next phase of the French River Walk, which would focus on the Tracy Court area, which if you can, this past spring, we did Tracy Court between like the Holden Block and the Montfrey building, so it would be going farther down to the river, and there's the plans have kind of a little plaza area next to the river where there's the bridge right now. So that would be the scope of the work. She is also asking that the chairman, that the board allow the chairman to sign the necessary grant paperwork, because it comes in and it's a little bit time sensitive, and we may not have a meeting before the next required signature is needed. And then also to allow me to be the environmental certifying officer.
All right, is there a motion from the board?
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Just for clarity, so we're endorsing the proposed grant activity, authorizing the chairman of the selectmen to take all actions necessary and designate Doug Willardson as environmental certifying officer.
Right.
Right, any other discussion? Right, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Book?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Right, next item is vote on certification to the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection as to authority to file applications for state financial assistance for water pollution abatement
So,
projects.
actually, this is not necessary. Originally, I thought that the board had a vote because I was new in my position, but because I'm the incumbent, it automatically allows me to
Okay.
submit this paperwork, so no
Alright.
need to take a vote.
All right, moving on, we have a vote to award a contract for the reconstruction of Dresser Street.
Yeah, so we just talked about what CDBG wants to do next year with their project. This year is the Dresser Street project. We got very favorable bids, so we recommend that the board approve it with Borgs, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, construction of Ludlow for $382,035.50.
So moved.
Second?
And just from the recommended action is as it is written on the form.
Yeah, that would be good.
So you have a motion and second, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just at the risk of maybe not raising a can of worms, but what about the water pipes?
Yeah, so these were
'Cause
already.
I think this is an area that may have had some
Those
issues.
were-
Dresser Street. The water department reviewed Dresser Street,
Okay,
and
so
they
there's
were, yeah,
no
they were
issues.
comfortable with these.
Okay.
Any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Book?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Right, then we have a letter of resignation from Denise DeShano from the planning board, so they're looking for us to accept that resignation letter. So is there a motion from
So
So
moved.
moved with
Second.
thanks.
all right, so motion is second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Book?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. We have a letter of resignation from Michelle Boulay and Mark Kanicki from the Cultural Council.
And Mr. Chairman, on this one, I will refrain.
Right, so do we have a motion to accept the resignation?
So moved,
Is there a s-
with regrets.
Is there a second? We voted on that one.
Yeah.
right? Oh, all right.
Well, they're on the cultural?
Yes,
You need a second?
yes.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Right, and then next thing we need to, and we'll do,
So we added to the agenda the financial policies.
yes,
Sorry,
financial policy.
Probably wasn't on that printed one.
Happy reading.
Yeah, so,
So next item is financial policies.
so I emailed this out, I think actually beginning of January, so we can go over it, which might take a while, or we can, if there's any specific questions from the board, we can jump straight to those. The chairman, I'll let you decide how you want to handle this. As background, the finance staff has all reviewed it and is comfortable with it. The finance committee has all reviewed it and is comfortable with it. It is, came from a template from the State Department of Revenue, and there were very few changes, mostly semantic changes, so I feel very comfortable with the policies.
Mr. Chairman, I would beg just one more meeting. If you
Yeah,
don't mind. I
that
did-
is totally
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, so why don't we put this on the March meeting?
Yeah, I think that was the original plan.
Yes,
If there were
the-
questions, we could answer them here, and then
Then vote on it in
March,
March
we
after
can-
everybody's had time to review.
we'll try to keep that meeting shorter so we have time
Yes,
to talk.
absolutely.
Try not to ask too many questions.
Oh, right, and then next item is executive session, and we will be coming back into open session only to adjourn.
That's correct.
All right.
But will we be live or not live? Or we gonna let Greg go?
We can let Greg
We'll let
go.
Greg go.
So,
So,
yeah, as long as it's clear that we're not doing any business after.
so at this time, I'm going to take a poll of the board to see if we can go into executive session under reason number 6 to consider the purchase, exchange, taking, lease, or value of real property if such discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body. The item being discussed is the Worcester Community Alliance Council lease at the former senior center.
Yes.
What's a community action council?
Action,
Oh.
I think it is.
Oh, Alliance, yeah, no, it is,
Yeah.
it's action, sorry.
So is there a motion to
So
go into
moved.
executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Right, and then I'll pull the board, Selectman Ford,
Yes.
Selectman Miller,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Becker.
Yes.
And then myself, yes.